Well, good afternoon. This past Canada Day has given us the opportunity to reflect on what it means to be Canadian. During these extraordinary times, we have to look out for each other. Some of the most vulnerable people in our province have been hit the hardest by the outbreak. People who are homeless, those living paycheck to paycheck, those living without a paycheck, and those who are socially isolated. Many have fallen on hard times, and as Canadians, we need to support them. No one should have to worry if they'll have a roof over their head. That's why we paused residential evictions. That's why we invested $3.7 million in support for housing in Kingston and Muskoka to help find a home for youth at risk. And that's why we invested $148 million at the outset of this pandemic to support our local food banks, shelters, emergency services, and charities. Working with our municipal partners, this money has been put to very, very good use. They've helped us provide relief directly to the people who need it most. In Norfolk County, we're helping provide meals, groceries, and personal care items to those in isolation due to COVID-19. In Peel Region, we're helping 4 nonprofits deliver food to low-income families, seniors, at-risk youth, and people with disabilities. In Hamilton, we're helping to purchase food and provide transportation and personal protective equipment for those in need. We've worked closely with our municipal partners to deliver this critical funding to their most vulnerable citizens. So today, I'm here to announce that we're doubling our investment in the province's Social Services Relief Fund. We're investing an additional $150 million to improve homeless shelters and create opportunities for long-term care housing. This funding will help municipalities renovate shelters, purchase new facilities, and prepare for emergencies. Above all, it will allow them to continue to protect their most vulnerable citizens and provide the care they deserve. And this is just one of the ways we're continuing to support our municipal partners through these difficult days. And we need the federal government at the table. I will continue working with Prime Minister to ensure every community in the province can keep delivering the services. And as our province reopens and our economy restarts, we need to help everyone get back on their feet and recover from these tough times. No one must be left behind. No community must be left behind. As Premier, I will always be a champion for our municipalities and Indigenous communities. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to Minister Clark.
Thank you, Premier. I'm pleased to provide an update on our government's continued efforts to support our most vulnerable throughout these unprecedented times. Working together with our municipal and Indigenous community partners in our fight against COVID-19, keeping families at home has been our primary defense against its spread. We have taken action to help Ontarians on a number of fronts as we battle this virus. Through an application to the courts, we suspended residential evictions in March to make sure people could stay in their homes. We also announced $200 million in initial social service relief funding. $148 million of that went to our municipal partners, more specifically, our service managers and Indigenous program administrators, to help strengthen community programs, including their housing and homelessness systems. This funding allowed our partners to expand shelter capacity, purchase personal protective equipment, increase rent banks, and provide emergency funding to those in need. We've heard from service managers that our investment is helping to save lives, and today's announcement will help them to continue responding to COVID-19 right now. The need is urgent. As part of Ontario's contribution to the federal government's proposed Safe Restart framework, we are investing an additional $150 million in new funding through our Social Service Relief Fund to address new COVID-related costs. Our government is working to create longer-term, innovative, and sustainable housing solutions. Local service managers know what their communities need and will be looking for their best advice as we roll out this program in the coming weeks. Today's announcement brings our total social service relief funding to over $350 million. And through our COVID-19 action plan for vulnerable people, we're going to continue working hand in hand with municipalities and social service providers so they can continue to deliver the critical services our most vulnerable citizens rely on. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Just before we start the questions, you notice my right-hand person's not with me today. The best Deputy Premier, the best Minister of Health I've ever seen, Christine. Just tell you a little story. So on, what day are we on? Thursday. So on Tuesday after our press conference, she said, Doug, are we going out Thursday and Friday? And I told her I could never tell Christine a tall tale or anything. I said, well, I'm not too sure, this and that, because I knew I was coming out Thursday, but Christine works her back off. She has been going, it was 105, 110 days, day in and day out. And the toughest ministry out of anywhere in the province, obviously, is health going through this pandemic. And I said, well, maybe I may not be going out. So if anyone talks to Christine and she's up at the cottage, she deserves a few days off. Hopefully she's not watching television, because she'll hop in her car, this is how determined she is, and she'll drive all the way back, and I don't want that to happen. So let's just keep that a secret between us and the people listening. She's just an absolute champion. I just can't say enough about her. She's amazing, but every person needs a break, and Christine, a well-deserved break. So hopefully we won't see Christine tomorrow. That's great.
Okay, we'll go to the phone line for questions. First question.
Your first question comes from Jeff Gray with the Globe and Mail.
Hi,
Please
Jeff.
go ahead.
Oh, hi. Hi, Goober. Hi, thanks. I just want to ask first a question about the issue of the farm workers and the health guidance around allowing asymptomatic farm workers to stay on the job. There's this letter signed by hundreds of healthcare professionals concerned about it. Windsor, I think the medical officer there, is not implementing it at a major outbreak. Are you considering reversing this measure or reconsidering it given these concerns?
Well, that's strictly up to the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Ahmed, down in the Essex area. And I guess the situation on that one farm, there was 177 workers tested positive right now. I can assure everyone down there, I've been on this all day yesterday, night before, and today. I've been on the phone with Ontario Health that's reaching out to the farmers, because it makes them nervous now. You have to walk a mile in these farmers' shoes. Like there's companies that could lose their businesses, which I don't want to happen. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of food not being able to be harvested. It's a tough situation. We're all over it. We have our teams down there working with the farmers, working with the workers. We have the translators down there. We're working with OMAFRA, trying to get through this. This is a real challenge for everyone, but the critical area, the message to the workers, they aren't being sent home. I think they're terrified that they're going to be sent home, and they aren't being sent home. You will get paid, and we just want to take care of you. And the best thing to do is with the farmers. We can't run and hide. I'm there to help you any way we can. I'm on this. But the quickest way to get through this is get tested and self-isolate. We'll find housing. No matter where it is, we'll make sure we have the proper housing. We'll support you any way we can. Any way we can.
Follow up?
And I just, to take my follow-up, just to go to the issue of the day, an additional $150 million for the shelters and other things. The need in Toronto alone, I think the amount that they've spent responding in this area to COVID-19 is much more than that. Mm-hmm. And I know there have been discussions, you mentioned the federal government needing to come to the table. Yep. Where are you on providing a bigger, much bigger, comprehensive relief package to municipalities?
Well, hopefully that $350 million will be inclusive of what we're looking at giving to the municipalities. We've been talking to the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister on our calls weekly, every Thursday. And do you know how we could settle this very simply, and all the premiers will agree? They've given us 7 parameters, and 7 parameters don't work for all the provinces. You know, some need more in one area than others, and be it the East Coast or West Coast or the territories. Everyone has their priorities. Very simple. Hand us a check over per capita, and let us fall into those categories. But some may need it in other areas. Like, obviously, we have huge municipalities. We're committed to give the municipalities more money. To be very frank, I was the one who brought it up. It probably wouldn't even been mentioned throughout the country if I didn't keep pushing the table, the Premier's table, and they've supported us on getting funding for municipalities. But just cut a check, give us the flexibility. The magical word is flexibility, and we'll fall into the categories they want. But if we're just forced to go into areas that we just don't need the money and we need more in the other area, it's just not going to work for any of the premiers. So that's my message to the Prime Minister, and he's been very good, by the way. I want to compliment him and the Deputy Prime Minister. They're both doing an incredible job. But just send us the money and it's done. Give us the flexibility. We'll fall into those categories. And we have a done deal. We can get money flowing. We're flowing, but there's only so much capacity the municipalities have.
Next question.
Your next question comes from Sean Jeffords with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Hi, Sean.
Good afternoon, Premier. Wanted to ask you about the launch of the contact tracing app that Ontario was supposed to pilot. We understand that it's been delayed. I'm wondering if you can explain why it hasn't been rolled out yet and when you're expecting that it will now be able to be in use.
Well, it's not delayed on our side. I'm so proud that Shopify, what an incredible job they did. And we're proud to have the app come from Ontario. We're ready to go. I know the feds want to bring it right across the country. They're working on that, but Ontario's ready. So we'll wait for the feds to launch this, and we support them. I think they just have to get some other provinces on side right now, but we're good.
Follow up.
And Premier, another question for you about the situation down in Windsor-Essex with the farm where I understand over 190 workers have tested positive for COVID-19. You said that you've spoken with the owner of this farm. The health unit down there says they will not release the name of the farm itself. I'm wondering if you will say what this farm is, who this farm is, and if not, why not? And why does the public not have a right to know where this outbreak is when in other parts of the province that has been the practice?
Well, there's a lot of farms just on the brink right now, and I don't want to hurt any business. I don't want to hurt any farmers. No fault of their own. You know, when I call people out, it's because they're trying to gouge someone. They're trying to take advantage of the public. These poor farmers, they aren't trying to take advantage of anyone. They're beside themselves. And I'm not about to throw a hardworking farmer underneath the bus for nothing that he's done wrong. He's trying. We just need the cooperation of the workers as well. On those tests, we wanted to go back down there and retest them. And all the workers went and hid. We were able to retest 4 out of 190. And that's why my emphasis to the workers, nothing's going to happen. We're here. Ontario's here to help you, make sure you get better, make sure you get healthy. That's what we want to do. We want to protect you. We don't want to hurt you. So there's no reason to hide. You know, just let the medical professionals do their job, and we'll get back and up and running again. You'll be able to get back to work. The farmers will be able to move forward with their businesses. I understand the situation. The farmers, you know, the poor gentleman, after saying we can put him back to work, all of a sudden they shut down the farm. And I understand where the chief medical officer is, but do you think that encourages other farmers to cooperate when all of a sudden, you know, one of their friends get their farm shut down like that? We're working on this, and around the clock we're working on this. And hopefully today or tomorrow we'll be able to sit down and have a conversation. I've talked to both the mayors. I talked to Mayor McDonald, Mayor of Leamington last night too, and she's a wonderful person, working hard, but I feel sorry for the people in Leamington and everyone down there. We're doing everything we can to get this up and going again. We just need the cooperation.
Next question.
Your next question comes from Lucas Meyer with News Talk 1010. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Premier.
Hi.
Premier, just to go quickly back on the app, you mentioned that the province is ready to go here, and we're waiting on a little bit more, federal approval. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what seems to be the holdup, and if you have any indication of when it will be ready?
Well, I think it's ready to go. I think they just need a buy-in from a few more provinces and open it up nationally. And I stand with the Prime Minister on doing this. I understand there's a little problem with giving other provinces the right to communicate with Apple and I believe it's Microsoft. I could be wrong on that, but just be able to communicate with their providers.
And my other question is actually for Minister Clark, since you're there. Minister, and the Premier mentioned before, that we're looking out for the most vulnerable and people working to paycheck to paycheck. And you did mention the moratorium on residential evictions. I'm curious though, do you already have an idea in mind? Obviously it's very difficult to tell because we don't know what the emergency measures are going to be with the pandemic, but do you have an idea in mind of when that could potentially be lifted? Any idea of when that could potentially happen, where we could see those eviction notices start again? And if so, are you suspecting we're going to see just a big, influx of possible evictions? And if so, what are you going to do about it?
Well, Attorney General, but first of all, Lucas, thank you for the question. Attorney General Doug Downey has been working a lot with Tribunals Ontario about how we would go about restarting the LTB process. We've got a bill that is in committee today and will be at some point reported back to the House that I think will add some good measures to help protect tenants, things like adding mediation to the process so that we can hopefully get some cooperation between the landlords and tenants. So I don't have anything to add today on the restart of the LTB, but I have been working very closely with the Attorney General. On today's announcement, though, I'm looking forward to some very innovative proposals from our municipal partners. Just today, I signed a ministerial zoning order that would provide 56 bachelor units on a 3-story structure on Macy Avenue here in Toronto as a result of a request by the city. So I'm looking for this next phase of the Social Service Relief Fund to get some of those innovative ideas to help house our most vulnerable and to be able to provide those long-term solutions moving forward.
Okay, this will be last question.
And I apologize, it's Apple and Google, not Apple and Microsoft. I'm not much of a techie. But next question.
Your final question comes from Mark Douglas with 680 News. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Premier,
Hey, Mark.
you mentioned that you would like Ottawa to just cut us a check. I wonder if that's really a realistic expectation.
Absolutely it is.
If any agency within Ontario came to you and asked you to cut them a check, say for any autism program or for X number of hospital beds, would you simply write that check and give them the flexibility that they're looking for?
Well, Mark, to be very fair, you're comparing apples with oranges. You're talking to 13 premiers that know where their needs are, no matter if it's transportation or other areas that concern PPE, testing. Our testing's going through the roof. We need a lot more than other areas. BC's testing about 2,000 to 3,000 people a day. We're testing upwards to 30,000 a day. So we have a larger requirement. What we need a check. We're going to follow the guidelines and make sure they're allocated into the right areas. But we've been saying this over and over again in every single meeting, and all the premiers agree. We need one thing. We need flexibility. We'll work within their guidelines, but we need the flexibility to put where the money is needed. The feds, with all due respect, they don't know where every single province needs the money. And just like we listen to our municipalities, and the Minister of Municipal Affairs listens to the municipalities, you talk to Toronto, they need a big chunk of it in transit. So we listen to them. It's not the other way around. If we went there and dictated every single penny has to go here, has to go there, I'll tell you, if any large city mayor, any mayor comes up to us and says, hey, we need a little more in transit, we aren't going to say no to them. We're going to say, you guys are the experts in the municipalities, which I'm going to champion. I got to support the municipalities. I'm going to be their voice. I'm going to be pushing the feds hard. But, I'm not going to dictate to them. It's all about having a conversation. We've had numerous conversations all the premiers of the federal government saying flexibility. That's all we're asking. We'll work within their guidelines. We aren't going to go hog wild with, outside of the guidelines. We're going to work within the guidelines. Let the provinces, let the people decide.
Follow up?
Thank you. Follow-up question then, a slightly different topic there, but something that was also just mentioned. If the migrant workers down in the Windsor-Essex area are literally hiding from medical professionals,
Yeah.
does that not speak to a desperate nature in their work situation and how precarious these people feel that their situation is, even though our economy needs these migrant workers so much? Do you believe there is something that is an unacceptable, untenable situation down there that people feel they need to hide from doctors and nurses?
Well, first of all, we have the translators down there, but we need to get a hold of them to speak to them. We're Canada. We aren't some third world nation that you have to run from the authorities. We're here to help you, not to hurt you. And I don't know what's been communicated to them through maybe the farmers, maybe someone else. But we're here to help them out and get them healthy. That's the number one priority. The rules apply to them like they apply to any worker in Ontario. They're protected. They're protected under labor laws. We're there to protect them, not to throw them underneath the bus. And I got to help the farmers, but we need everyone to cooperate and get moving. If not, it becomes a stalemate. So we want to get things moving forward, and I'm sure everyone will come around, hopefully sooner than later. It's critical we get the food on harvest and into the stores.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.